Hello, everyone, and welcome back. My name is Lilly Landikusic, and this is Voices of Hope. And we have a wonderful guest that I just feel so humbled and honored to be able to interview. Her family had gone through a very advanced case of trauma, and a movie was made about her, Christy Johnson. And before I welcome you to share your story, I just want to introduce a little bit about how profound you are in being a beacon for me, and I think for how many countless other people in overcoming family trauma, speaking out, and coming from childhood abuse and transitioning that to not only being open about your story, but sharing it with others to move the movement of awareness, spread resources, and especially connecting in overcoming through sharing our stories. And Christy, it's just such a privilege to be able to introduce you. We're going to do a series together, so she'll go into more detail in the future, but I just want her to dive right in and talk about the movie, her experience in this journey, and her message for other victims. Christy, with that, welcome.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate it. And thank you for having me. And I look forward to doing the series with you. Yeah, the name of our film is No Crime and Sin. And it was done by Vivani Productions. And they are an Emmy Award winning team. And Jared Ruga heads that and is an incredible human being. And it is called, again, No Crime and Sin. It can be seen on Amazon Prime. It could also be seen on Vimeo. And if you go to www.nocrimeandsin.com, it'll show you the different links that you can click on or rent the film or whatever. But yeah, we've had a lot of success with that, and I'm really grateful that our story was able to be presented in that way, because there are so many victim and survivor stories out there. And I've been asked a lot about, why was your family chosen, or why was your story? Because there are more severe cases, as you see, that are coming out even more in the media now. But there are a lot of untold stories. And, my heart is always going to be with victims and survivors of these kind of atrocities that happened. And it's so prevalent. And that's the thing is, statistics are growing. And instead of going the other way, we're finding that there's more and more victims of these horrendous crimes. And what's really hard, and is part of our story, is how the reporting of the crime and how telling of what was going on was not addressed and was ignored through the years. And that put some pressure on my mother. And, because she did speak up quite a few times, and of the abuse at the hands of my father. And so the film, to get to that, it really kind of addresses a little bit about what happened, and it all focuses around us meeting with our perpetrator, who's our father.
And before you go into that, because I want people to see that in the film, it is such a powerful and emotional moment. And I think if you go into too much detail about it, I'll get too emotional, because I actually couldn't believe that he agreed to do that. And I think it was a very direct window into what abuse and trauma can look like. And sometimes it can look like someone so innocent as a grandfather, or like you. I don't, want to put you on the spot, but a lot of people discriminate what an abuser or abuse victim looks like. And you look so successful. I just look up to you when you speak, and I admire you because you also help shed the discriminating myth about what an abuse victim looks like. And, you've overcome so much with this story. And I want to let people know you're going to go into more detail about that. But if you talk about this crossroads, maybe just to give a little message about the series and going?
Sure. Most importantly, that people are not alone. And you wouldn't believe the people that are our victims, that you may work with or maybe in your family. And, we look like everybody, and that's the thing is no one has a certain look or a certain lifestyle, and you'd be very surprised. But I want people to know that they are not alone and that I know what it feels like to be alone at night and it's just you and you start having feelings and you feel overwhelmed and you wonder, do I say something or, you know, can I seek counseling? Is that my first step? Or do I make a police report? Or, what do I do? And I think that these are things that we are faced with, is what's my next move? Or can I admit that these things have happened? And, what are my rights? There is so much that is offered now
Just
for
you,
survivors. There's a lot of help
how
out there.
how you mentioned those things from going through it, I think is the most valuable part for me in wanting to interview you because you have guideposts, bullet points, you
Yeah,
have resources, you've got labels to some of the chaos and the triggers and the symptoms of trauma that so many people can confuse just in misinformation. So that's what I'm really excited about interviewing you in these discussions and maybe spotlighting some of those issues that you just named. And any more information you want to share about your personal story and why you think it brought you here to this crossroads of standing up.
okay. I just really think there was like divine intervention and how everything kind of came about, because you go through the steps throughout your life and then you do reporting and you do all that kind of stuff. And then how the film came about and, being connected and then having, there be some interest in what happened, why our family, and then how things fell into place. And so I realized during that process that I literally had a decision to make. And, putting your story out there is very vulnerable, because you don't know how it's going to be received. But once you look past that and realize that maybe you're made, these things come out for a reason and you're put as a focus point to help other people, that created a lot of empowerment with me. And it made me feel like I could go forward every day. It doesn't mean I don't struggle, right? But I do know myself a lot better and know why I feel the way that I do, or I question, like, is that a trigger for me? Why am I overreacting to that? Or what does this mean? And the whole thing is to try to, better your life. And once you get yourself together and really learn yourself and realize that you're not what happened to you. You weren't made to be a victim. You were made to be a survivor in spite of whatever happened, and decisions you've made even this far in life. Ooh, you've got a long way to go. And we all can help each other. We are literally meant to help each other along in this journey of life. I mean, we are all here for each other. And some people are called to do other things. And um, I just feel like there was a lot of divine intervention. And as we go through the series and I share the different stories, of how it all came about and, losing family members and, getting past through all that and kind of, you really do take on a lot by people knowing your personal stuff. And not everybody's going to have their story right out there. Some people will choose to, and I encourage that. If that's your way of dealing with it or facing whatever happened to you, whether it's meeting with your perpetrator like we did, or if it's, writing a letter, whatever you need to do for you. There's no rule book. And that's what people need to know. You're not breaking a bunch of rules. You need to be kind to yourself and realize, that a lot of people are in the same boat and we just need to find what works for us.
Well, what you're doing helped me, and this standing up and sharing stories, I think that it sometimes can connect to somebody that you never know, you never meet through the internet and your social media. you touched my life, and to be able to start to talk about the emotions of family trauma and secrets and things that make all of us cringe, it brings air to it. It brings light to it. It stops patterns of abuse from being passed down when our children and grandchildren start to see, hey, people are standing up. I'm seeing, people talk about it and share resources and warning signs and identify triggers and have compassion and engage and embark in these explorations about overcoming, some cases, extreme trauma like yours.
And it's an uncomfortable conversation. It really is, but there's ways to, deal with it. Like sometimes people don't like to talk about it. You know what and they don't like to address it because it is uncomfortable. But that's life. And there's so many of us now, that it does need to be addressed, and it's okay to be uncomfortable.
Well,
It's okay to have that conversation.
And in looking at the series and being able to go into depth on some of those experiences of your childhood trauma, how you endured it, how you survived it, how it affected your different family members, what were the role of the professionals, the system, the law, DCFS and different child protective services, the influence of religion, the church, the state. I mean, you have such a fascinating case and want to go into detail, but as we close, just introducing you in this series that I'm so excited about embarking on, because every time I talk to you, I feel like I get emotionally moved. But I really want to just ask about that crossroads of when you shifted from feeling like a victim to feeling like I'm a survivor, I'm empowered. What does that, if anybody's listening right now and you're saying it's uncomfortable to talk about, a lot of times, it's going to trigger us. How do you get into that space and take it into empowerment and being a survivor? Because I can speak on my own behalf. Sometimes I still struggle with going backward. So, because I think that's the purpose of my meeting you and this series, is that place where we can shift trauma into empowerment in the moment. And so maybe in closure, I just want to ask, and then we'll talk about all these other questions that are limitless for me to you later. But
sure, and I can't wait to share a bunch of the healing part, which is so important, is to heal from it, because we're expected to heal, and it's beautiful to heal. It can be very painful leading up to that, but the other side of that is very incredible. And but for me, like, when I said that there was a moment that happened in the film where there was a power shift, and just quickly, when I realized that my father had no pictures of us and there was no evidence that we existed in his life because he had taken on a new life. And my sister and I, we had talked during the break of it and filming, and I said, there's no pictures of us in this house. There's no evidence that we existed. Like, he walked away from it. And I thought, I've been carrying his load for years. Why am I doing that? And so in the film, when you see, and you can, when I hugged my father, I was saying goodbye, and I literally, physically and emotionally felt a shift where I took my power back. And I'm getting goosebumps talking about it because I felt it, not only physically, but mentally and emotionally, where I said, enough. Like, this is your part you're going to deal with. I'm going to go forward now in my life. And I don't know what it's going to look like. But I'm not carrying what you did anymore. That's for you to deal with personally. I've done everything I can possibly do to bring justice. So now my focus is on healing. And I took that back, and it's possible for everybody. But everybody comes to it in a different time, and you'll know when it shifts for you.
Well, what a profound sharing of such a personal and vulnerable experience. And Christy, I just want to thank you so much. I'm really thrilled to be able to explore issues of overcoming family trauma with someone like you. I gain a lot every time I talk to you. So I just want to close with sharing a little bit more about your website, your the film, the name, how people can contact you on social media, and then we'll be seeing you on a weekly basis here on Voice of Hope.
Okay, yeah, great. And I am so looking forward to this. Yeah, the film again is at www.nocrimeinsin.com. There's also different links at the top. One is our press link. And if you click on that, you're going to see a lot of the different media outlets that picked up our story and a lot of different media interviews that I also did during that time. And so you can learn a little bit more. You can also Google, there's some other places that I did interviews, and just find out a little bit more about the story, and then I'd encourage everyone to watch it, too, any way you can. And then to be able to literally watch the journey of how it all kind of fell into place and started. But I just really encourage people, to try to seek out someone that you can talk to. And there's so many resources now, but I can't wait to share all the healing stuff. It's super cool.
Well, you do all the time. It's just, I think it is your calling. It must be, because you've already impacted me. So I can't imagine how many thousands of people that, I mean, really, maybe even hundreds of thousands with your story, your willingness to be vulnerable. But I love that you talk about that crossroads, and that everyone has the ability to overcome it, and that we're not alone. And so I just look forward to these, Christy. Thank you so much. And
Thank
we'll
you.
see you really soon.
All right. Thanks.